I would like to take this time to formally apologize.
What? What are you saying?
I deeply apologize.
Are you trying to say apologize?
No, I would never do that. What I am doing is apologizing to all the people who were offended by my statements, but more importantly, to the people who were turned on by them. I hear it's really 50-50.
Have you seen my poll numbers, I think? They're very impressive.
Yes, honey. I've seen the size of your hands, so trust me, I'm sure that your poll numbers is not that impressive.
There's no problem with the size of my hands. Trust me, they're big, they're beautiful, and they're fantastic.
Just a few days later, CNN unearthed another old Playboy video featuring Trump photographing and interviewing a model. Evidently, she performed well in the interview, but was not selected to be his next wife.
Apparently, Hillary says she's expecting a prepared and focused Donald Trump to show up for Sunday's debate. Trump said, wrong.
Headlines and punchlines from the late-night humor shows. A topic that's not really funny, the economy, although I guess we tried to laugh to keep from crying. That was a major bone of contention last night during the debate. A lot of pundits reviewing the record and watched the debate last night saying Mr. Trump came out on top, or at least took the fight to Mrs. Clinton. But given the fact that he's made so much money in our economy, did his point of view also resonate with the voters? To talk about that, we're pleased to be joined by the founder and managing partner of Harrington Capital Management, Kyle Harrington, from out in Southern California, and from the city of Broad Shoulders, Chicago, the founder and chairman of the Society to Advance Financial Education, Steve Beaman. Steve's also the author of the 2-volume 12-CD guide entitled The Path to Prosperity. Gents, we appreciate your time here this afternoon on America Talks Live. Death and taxes are inevitable. But if you're a candidate for public office, especially a Republican named Donald Trump, you're going to be asked about your 1995 tax return. Here's the way that went down last night.
I know many of her donors. Her donors took massive tax write-offs.
So have you not paid personal federal income tax?
A lot of my write-off was depreciation and other things that Hillary, as a senator, allowed. And she'll always allow it because the people that give her all this money, they want it. That's why.
So does Trump, it's interesting, Kyle, it was explained to me that Trump is kind of like a computer hacker when it comes to the economy. In other words, you can say, yeah, I've taken advantage of this. I know some of the loopholes we need to plug. Does that argument carry some weight with most voters on Main Street?
I think it does. I think first and foremost, JD, it highlights his honesty with respect to current day economics and our tax structure. Look, with respect to the economy, JD, this is someone who has met a payroll on a consistent basis, has employed thousands, if not tens and tens of thousands of people. So when it comes to the economy, knowing the day in and day out about the tax code, expenses, depreciation, all things that are totally legal within our current tax structure, I think Donald Trump comes out far ahead of Hillary Clinton.
Steve, you authored The Path to Prosperity. I don't know if it works that way for Republicans voting in Chicago, Cook County. But aside from the challenges there for a Republican, what about Trump's arguments on the economy and specifically what he had to say about his 1995 tax return?
Well, I think as it relates to that 95 tax return, what happened is he had a bad year. He lost $900 million. So over time, he got to carry that loss forward. That is nothing different than millions of American small business people have done on their tax returns. Anybody who has had private business that's had a bad year has carried forward a loss. That's the way our system works, and we want it that way to incentivize risk-taking in the entrepreneurial class. So kudos to Trump. I'm sorry he had a bad year, but I certainly don't blame him for carrying it forward.
Yeah, he was using the tax law as it existed. And as you point out, a whole lot of Americans, not just Wall Street, but Main Street and quite likely your street, utilize depreciation and other tools when filling out their taxes.
JD, I've done it. I've owned businesses that went bust, and you take that write-off and you take it against future earnings. That's the way it's played.
And obviously it is something, that's why I think perhaps the argument didn't resonate so well. The Dems and the media thought it was a sure winner. Didn't appear that way to me in the past 10 days when they've tried to use it as an excuse. All right, gents, let's move along to what the Trump tax plan actually is. Here's the way the GOP nominee boiled it down in last night's debate.
We're cutting taxes for the middle class, and I will tell you, we are cutting them big league for the middle class. And I will tell you, Hillary Clinton is raising your taxes, folks. You can look at me. She's raising your taxes really high. And what that's going to do is a disaster for the country. But she is raising your taxes, and I'm lowering your taxes. That in itself is a big difference. We are going to be thriving again.
And we thrive, as you know, not only, gents, with your comments, but those of our callers at 1-877-NEWSMAX, 1-877-639-7629. Let's go out to Hemet, California, where Toby Ann is standing by. Toby Ann, your take on the economy, Mr. Trump and Mrs. Clinton last night.
Okay, this is very brief, but I have a message. All those, you know, when men get together, they're macho men and they make a lot of statements. And now it has been implied that a tsunami of Republicans are now going to not vote for Trump. Well, I have this statement to make, and it is, those men that have never talked like that before, please stand up and ask the guy next to you for a date.
All right, Toby Ann, I appreciate your comments. And since she is coming from Hemet, California, Kyle, she's one of your neighbors. The whole thing that goes on, it's really interesting how instead of the economy, instead of national security, it's all come down to the Trump tape. And of course, Toby Ann is making the point that a lot of guys are hypocrites. Is this argument going to continue to drive things, Kyle, or has he pretty much turned the page on it?
I think Toby Ann highlights a very important point. Let's start with what Trump said is inappropriate. However, I think that there are an array of men in the U.S., whether it be, as Trump highlighted, in the locker room, together with other men, they have made comments similar to these. I think Trump did a fantastic job last night of really turning the page as he highlighted Hillary Clinton's husband and his his sort of exploits during the time that he was in office. So, in short, I think that last night we got over the issue of the recording that took place with Trump. He focused on the issues at hand in the country, and he highlighted the fact that he was apologetic and that other people have done this as well.
All right, let me go back to the economy. And Steve, since you deal with financial education, as an old Ways and Means member, what continues to come in my mind is what Milton Friedman said. If you want less of something, tax it. And Trump is saying, no, you reduce taxes and it actually builds up the economy. Did he make that point last night? About 40 seconds.
I thought he made it very well. I think the American people are smart enough to know that the stimulus for our economy they want comes out of their investments, not the government's. Hillary was blatant about her belief that government is the better arbiter of how money should be spent. And that hasn't proved to be true in the last 8 years again, where we increased our debts $10 trillion and only got $3 trillion in growth. So I think Trump made his point that it's the American people who want to stimulate the economy, and we do that with tax cuts and regulatory relief.
All right, Steve Beaman from Chicago and Kyle Harrington from San Diego. Gentlemen, we appreciate your time and what you had to say, and we look forward to having you back soon. Now, this audio tape and Paul Ryan and other top Republicans, some of them lukewarm like Ryan, others just withdrawing their support from Donald Trump, prompts this question at newsmaxpolls.com. It's an urgent poll. Do you still support Donald Trump? You can vote on that at newsmaxpolls.com. Back with some of the best moments from last night's debate right after this.